Hello.
Hello.
Shut up, Mr. Kirioth. I've got information. So I've got a like. There is a massive wolf spider thing on the loose in the Shack of Dreams. He runs around. He's dead quick, and I've tried to capture him. Like I don't want to kill spiders. You shouldn't kill things like that. I don't want him running all over the place though, because he just shows up. But like I pick my phone up, you bastard, and he runs away. It's like, no, I don't want none of that shit. He's over in the corner somewhere where the consoles are stacked up, right? But
collecting dust and spiders, apparently.
well, no, because I clean them. But he's on the loose. Also, you know all this. Well, I'll show you all that on the wall. Yeah. I think like he's in there. He's down there somewhere. He lives down there. Oh. We're not really sure where, but that he's down there. Oh, there's that. Oh, is that on? Anyway, yeah. So he lives down there somewhere, and he's quite aggressive because he's fast and he runs around. I don't think he's aggressive. He's just fast, but he's running around all over the place. And I've been trying to capture him. Anyway, I googled it just before we started doing Pubcast, and I said, yeah, he's a wolf spider of some description, but he's quite big. He's about, well, I don't know, he's about that big, which is quite big for a spider in this country. Like, you know, he's quick and he's quite chunky. I googled it, wolf spider UK, and it came up with this article where some woman who lives in Gravesend in Kent has been terrorized for 3 weeks by a giant wolf spider that measures 3 inches in width. It runs around, it's poisonous when it bites her or something, and she can't get rid of it. And the next door neighbour said, just move house. It's like,
what an amazing solution! Just move house.
What the hell is this?
No one's going to buy that house because there's a fucking giant wolf spider in it. Apparently, why are you moving house? Well, I keep getting bitten by a poisonous spider that I can't catch or kill. So, I mean, nearest offer. It's just be like, no, fuck you, I'm not buying this. What are you talking about?
I mean, one of my sisters is really scared of spiders. Like, she just is like, can't handle it. And I'm like, I don't like them. But I'm not like, oh no, like I'm not going to leave. I know he's literally like a meter away somewhere.
Yeah,
and he might be under the desk. Who knows? It doesn't frighten me.
You know what? You know what I fucking hate. There's two. For some reason, I don't care about wasps. I'll murder a wasp. I'll grab a wasp. No, well, maybe not grab it, but you know what I mean. I'll eject a wasp. I'll get a glass and I'll just slam it. I don't care about that. Same for like bees and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, but the thing is, they eject you. That's the thing. It's okay with a wasp because a wasp will come for you. So you've got to go for the wasp.
Fuck wasps. Spiders, I don't like them, but I'm quite happy to, do the ejecting the house, the spider from the house routine. That apparently
toilet roll, out you go, job.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I don't have a problem with that. Moths, though, freak me the fuck out. I hate moths. I cannot deal with a moth. I don't know why, but I cannot deal with moths. There's something about the way they like flap the wings all crazy like. And it's like every now and again,
like, they're dopey.
I know, but I can't handle it. I can't take it. Every now and again, there's like for some reason, I think it's because we live near like a big field. There's a lot of moths around here because we're surrounded by fields all round, pretty much. And occasionally, you get these fucking massive moths, like they're huge. And if they get in the house, I'll be sitting there, I'll be playing a game, watching a film, just generally relaxing of an evening, and the window's open, because it's warm weather at the moment. One of these bastards will come in, and I won't notice in the room because I've got my headset on and I'm looking at the screen. But the screen attracts the moth, don't it? Because it's light.
Yeah, and he just dive bombs it.
Yeah, he dive bombs me. Like the last time it happened was a couple of weeks ago. This massive bastard moth just like literally flew into my face, and it's a good job I'm not old because I would have died. I legitimately nearly had a heart attack. It's like my heart just stopped and I was like, oh! And then I looked round and the thing just flew out the window again. I was like, you little bastard. The other thing, daddy long legs. They are the fucking worst. They creep me out worse than moths. But I know why that is. You know the legs, like the way they dangle down. We had like, I don't know what you call it, a nest of daddy long legs. I don't know what you refer to it as. There's like essentially like a massive clump of them in the garage when I was a kid.
No.
And I walked in and they flew into me and it fucked me up for life.
Daddy long legs are not, they do not have nests, right? That must have been a cobweb which had them in. A daddy long leg comes from your lawn, okay? They're grubs that are underneath the grass. They eat the roots of the grass, yeah? And then their little like worm thing comes out the grass like that, and the daddy long leg emerges from it and flies off, and he only lasts about 2 days and then he dies, yeah? But that's how they work, because you can get crazy things to kill them. Like what you can do, if you go and look at your lawn and look at it, like get down eye level and look parallel, you may see like these little like white things. They're very thin, almost like, well, way thinner than tissue paper. That's where they come from.
And that's all like daddy long legs lurking about, being. Like
that's them in their like pupae form thing. It's like when they're like a little grub, and then if you see the white thing, that means they've hatched. So the daddy long legs flew out, and he's come around to play.
Yeah, but
play
that's
with
still
you.
horrible.
But then he'll die. Also, daddy
horrible.
long legs, if they could penetrate your skin, would kill you. They're massively venomous.
I've heard that. I heard that the first time I heard that was in a Ricky Gervais stand-up show where he talks about animals, and it was like they've got like a horrendous amount of poison in them.
Yeah, they're just like over the top.
Is that actually true? Because I'm sure I read somewhere that that's like an urban myth.
No, I'm sure they've got a shitload of. They're quite aggressive. Like they're angry.
I'm not surprised. They're fucking freaks. Have you seen it? The legs are all like
fall off.
And the wings are too small for the body, so they float around and they bounce off shit. It's horrible.
This shed is covered with those spiders that have got a really small body but like 8-inch legs. Have you seen them? What are they about? They just look shit.
I had the joy of clearing out my garage this morning because it's full of cardboard. Because every time we get a delivery from Amazon, the box goes in the garage, which means that if you've spent like a year ordering shit off Amazon and never gone the tip, you end up with a garage that's full of cardboard. I saw so many of those little spiders with massive legs this morning.
I don't know what they're about.
They just, as soon as I shifted anything, one of them would just like sprint out from underneath. But the thing is, they sprint out. If you look away for a second, you've lost it. You don't know where it's gone. It's just vanished. It's creepy.
You know what gruels me as well? When I close the shack down at night on operations and I walk out, and then I just hear like this. Oh, God damn it! I stood on a snail. I mean, snails are like.
I feel bad for the snail.
I feel bad for them as well because they're just like a mush on the floor and it isn't quite dead. And I just think, oh dear.
They're not hurting anyone.
I'm sorry.
They're just, slowly going about the business, and then you tread on it, and I mean, it's essentially like going over to someone's house and like kicking the front door in. It's now unsecured. They're vulnerable. What are you going to do?
Well, they're probably dead as well because shards of the house have been rammed through their body.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Anyway, welcome to Pubcast, ladies and gentlemen. This is where we talk about a load of shit. We generally talk about games we've played and games we want to play and shit like that.
It's
and what
increasingly skewing between games we've played and just random stuff that's happened during the week. And I'm happy with that. I'm fine with that. I think it's fine.
Listen, we've got to have an outlet for all of this. We can't be hotfix because hotfix is laser focus. You know it.
Yeah. So it's fine.
I got my bike fixed this week.
Oh yeah, you rode it to within an inch of its life, didn't you?
Yeah, stupidly. Apparently, the problem was I ride it like a road bike because I'm used to riding the road bike. I say used like I'm some sort of fucking athlete, but I that was the last bike I rode, and to me, like when you're riding a bike, if you're going fast, you put it in the highest gear so you at least have some resistance so you can keep pedaling, and add to the speed a bit. You wouldn't have it in a low gear, would you? So your legs are going like this, would you? You'd have it in a higher gear. That's what I was doing, and I thought that was fine with the mountain bike. But it turns out, because the mountain bike got a shitload of gears, it's not, because the chain needs to stay straight. And I was pedaling it with the chain like this, so it was lax. Like the chain was getting stretched and it was mullering the chain and it mullered the cogs and I had to have the group set changed on the back and all kinds of shit. But it's fixed now, so I can carry on taking chunk out and going on crazy bike rides.
What was the one you did? What was the other one you did the other day? Like 20 miles or something? 2 hours?
Yeah,
and 20
I've
miles.
done that a couple of times now. Just under 2 hours because that was 5 minute 20-ish miles. That's pretty good for what I was doing because it's like on trails in the woods. Like I'm not done any like. I'll be honest, my bike isn't good enough, and I'm really not going to spend thousands on a bike because I just can't. For the technical stuff, like if you Google mountain biking, you'll see like people in the woods on like single track trails going like over little jumps and shit. I don't do that. What I do is I just go like distance through the woods. So I'm on a trail. I'm not on like I'm not going through the woods, or I'm not like on a path. I'm on like a fucking thing which resembles a path which you can kind of drive on, but there's boulders all over it. So it's punishing the bike, like, and because I'm doing it, going for the endurance thing, because I just want to do it for fitness. You know what I mean? I'm not doing it for any other reason. I kind of enjoy doing it, but it's better than going to the gym and all that shit. But yeah, my bike's only a cheap bike, really. Although I thought it was expensive, but when I took it to the bike shop, they were like, mate. Although they did say to me, they said you are very fast on that bike. From what I showed them on my phone on Runkeeper, they said you should enter competitions because you become in like top 3 around the trail I go around, this 20-mile circuit, because they race around it, you see, because it's like a big forestry commission area by me, and all the
so
it's like Go on.
Is it like a race where everyone's going at the same time? Or is it like a time trial thing? So like one person.
No, it's
sets
like a
off
time trial.
Yeah,
Because you couldn't send everyone at once; it'd be ridiculous. You'd be like slamming people out the way.
Is
No,
there
it's
cash
just like a time
prizes?
trial.
Because you could just use that to get a new bike. Just do
It
competitions
probably
on your
is a
to then
bike.
get
Yeah,
you...
it's probably like a bike or something
Yeah.
that you win. I don't know, but they have competitions around there a lot. But the endurance stuff is the one I think I prefer. But I find it easy to pedal it. It sounds stupid, but maybe my legs are just built for pedaling a bike or something. But it's like I pedal it and I just go, and it's like whatever. And like I said, like I did like 20 odd mile this circuit is, and I've done it quite a few times, and I tend to do quite a bit. But this is kind of boring anyway. I just like riding my bike, Mr. Kirioth. That's all I can say.
Well, I've kind of had a very similar experience in a way this week where I like to do a bit of rocksmith every now and again.
Oh yes,
Like on stream. I also do it obviously a lot by myself because I really enjoy playing my guitar and I enjoy playing along to stuff. So I decided, because my guitar kept detuning itself constantly whilst I was playing, I was like, this is looking a bit dodgy. What's going on here? So I took it to the guitar shop and I was like, what? Excuse me, sir. Good sir. My
well,
guitar
when you stream it always sounds like shit half the songs, and you're going, fucking hell, what the fuck? And the chat's like, ah.
What it is it turns out that if you detune and retune guitars over and over again, then you've got to do adjustments to them more than what I was doing. Because there's different kinds of where the string is at the bottom of the guitar and then at the top of the neck where the headstock is and the pegs. There's two different types of those. There's fixed ones and ones that you can adjust. Mine has got ones that you can adjust, but I've never adjusted them because I went from like a really shit guitar, which is like a beginner's guitar, to that guitar, which is not a beginner's guitar. What is the guitar? I'm actually getting a picture up now. It's an Ibanez Custom Artcore AS103.
Why has it got a stupid name?
They've all got stupid names. They've all got stupid names. I've got a picture up here. So this is...
Hang on, a custom what? A custom hardcore
Artcore.
Art, not hardcore.
Oh yeah, Artcore. So I'm showing it on the stream. I'm as bad as you now. On
Ibanez. I found their website.
Yeah. So I don't think they don't make this model anymore. They make a newer version of it, but that's what my guitar is for the people watching. And yeah, I've been detuning it and retuning it and messing about with it, but I've not really done any like proper adjustments to it, which is apparently quite bad. Like you don't want to do that. So I was like, okay, well, if I can't constantly like mess about with the tuning on this without, screwing it up and having it detune, I need another guitar. So that promised me to go on like a little, I guess, just a look around, a little look to see what I could find for the money. It turns out that if I want anything like what I've got now, it is like horrendously expensive. That fucking guitar I've got now was an absolute bargain when it was got. To get an equivalent one now, I was looking at guitars and it's like, yeah, this 250 quid effort is quite good if you're a beginner. I'm like, but I ain't a beginner. I've been playing for like 10 years.
Yeah, but would that matter if it's just for Rocksmith though?
But the thing is, if you're playing it all the time, because I play it on like pretty much every single day, if it's like a shit guitar, it's going to wear out really quickly because the materials aren't as good as more expensive guitars.
Yeah, just like my bike.
It's like the bike, yeah. So I was looking at it and I was like, okay, so what the fuck do I do here? So I don't know what. I have no idea what I'm going to do now because I thought I was going to get like a shit cheap one.
I hate that.
But I don't think I can get a shit cheap one because it's not going to be as good to play as well. Like, if it's really shit to play, I'm not going to want to play the guitar because it will just be like, this feels crap. So what do you do?
When I went into the bike shop, the guy said to me, he goes, is this bike a few years old? And I'm like, no, it's 7 weeks old. And he went, what? I said, it's 7 weeks old, this bike. And he went, right. He says, well, this is like, what have you been... He said, what have you been doing? If you took it to the Amazon? I said, no, I take it out all the time. And he was like, well, what's all the time? And I was like, well, I showed him and I'd done like about 350 miles in it in this time frame. And he's like, well, that's extreme. He said, he's probably thinking, have you even got a job or something, mate? You're just going out on this bike every day. What the fuck? And I'm like, yeah, I've been really getting into it. And he was like, well, I'm going to be honest, he said.
He's like, no shit.
Yeah, it's like the gears are destroyed. The gear cable from the front one, I don't know what the technical term is, but like on a bike, the one that changes the gears incrementally at the back, it doesn't change it's not the one on the right for the bigger, it's the left one. It's like, that's totally gone. So that needs to be replaced. So that got replaced, that cable. The gears got replaced on the back with a road bike system, so it's more durable. It can take more of punishment. He said that should last longer. And I said to him, I goes, well, what am I looking at here? Like, is this bike just going to fail like at some point, and I've just threw away? You know, this bike was 320 quid. It wasn't like
it's
like that's
not
expensive to me. I'm like,
yeah.
Well, he said the thing is,
that is not a small amount of money, and it's like when you're looking at this stuff, it's like you kind of look at it and go, yeah, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. And then you get told, yeah, no, mate, that's beginner shit. And it's like, but that's a load of money. That's a hell of a lot of money. Like I can't, it's crazy.
So I didn't. Well, I didn't realize this as well. On the front, the cogs at the front by the pedals. Yeah, most mountain bikes only have 2. They don't have 3. Well, mine had 3, and that's like a stupid selling point for people who are like me, who don't understand, and they think, oh yeah, more gears, it's going to be easy to pedal. But really, they should only have 2, because 3, you end up with all the problems I had. And you get that on more expensive bikes anyway, because the way I was riding it was it was wrong. Like, I shouldn't have been riding that. But, you know, how would I know? I was riding it like a fucking bike, you know?
Yeah.
So the guy said to me, like, this bike, the brakes, he said, are good on it because they're hydraulic. He said the wheels are like so-so. The seat's all right, he said. The front fork is like nothing, really. He said it's just like, it's okay. But that's not really going to do what a front fork should do. But he said, I guess it's all right. And it's got an aluminium frame, which is pretty good because it's not made of steel, so it's lighter, this bike. He said, so for the price, he said, it's not bad.
Yeah.
But he said, this is something that you could go out, let's say, and you could do like a 20-mile bike ride at the weekend once a week, not twice a week, and then 7 to 8 miles every other day in between. It's too much work for the bike. Like, and I'm like, okay. I said, well, what would I be? I said, like, realistically, what would I be looking at? Okay, if I needed a replacement, like, what would you say to me now? I've told you how much work I'm doing, and he's like, he says, well, I'll tell you what, so and so is in the back. He comes to the front, and this is a guy who does like the endurance shit, and he's like, yeah, well, that's my bike over there, and it was this nuke-proof bike. Google that, nuke-proof.
Nuke-proof.
Nuke-proof, yeah, and it was bright yellow.
No, I just made the mistake of Googling.
Yeah, nuke-proof mega something or other. It was $3,000. It's the top result. If you Google it, nuke-proof
mega. Yeah.
Yeah, $3,000. And I'm like,
is it this crazy green thing?
Yeah, it's like lime green. It says nuke-proof on it.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
so this is what it looks like.
Yeah, he said you should have something like this, and I'm like, well, I said that's way out of any budget I've got. I said that's like I could buy 10 of these bikes for that. You know what I mean?
That's mental.
I could just ride this until it destroys and buy another one. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. He said, yeah, but you'd never need another bike again. And I thought, are you fucking damn right for that money? You could buy a car.
Better, yeah.
You know. But he says it's one of these things where when you, and you kind of said this when you was telling me about your guitar, but when you try the best, it's like, oh my God, you cannot no longer accept the other shit. But I'm like in a happy place at the moment because I've not tried the best or even gone near the best. I've just got a bike, which it's like, if you're from the UK, okay, most people, when it's summer, they go to Halfords, don't they, and they buy a bike. They spend like 90 quid or whatever on the bike. And it's like this mountain bike thing with like front and rear suspension that doesn't really work. And it's steel, so it weighs a shitload and whatever. My bike is like above that. It's like you've got the Halford bikes, then you've got mine, which is it's a decathlon bike. It's a B-twin bike, but it's more like it's their low high tier, right? It's not their ultra high tier because they do sell expensive bikes there, but it's like something that you would think would be okay. And then you've got their expensive bikes. Then you just start going into all of these crazy bikes. I mean, when I was going around the place I was going around, there's a lot of people up there because there's a load of mountain bike tracks, and they're going past on these bikes and on Santa Cruz bikes. Google that. That's another ridiculous expensive one, I think.
Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz. Yeah. Welcome to the Mountain Bike Podcast, where we talk about mountain bikes. And this one here for $5.5 grand. Santa Cruz Nomad.
That's silly. What?
And I'm just like, holy fuck.
Nomad Carbon. Here we go. This is
oh yeah, because it's made of carbon.
It looks crazy.
It probably weighs nothing. I mean, it's just like, Jesus Christ, you can't even. It's just ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, ain't it? It's mad. I mean, I just made a mistake because I haven't done this for a while, but I stuck my guitar into Google Shopping just to see if anything came up, because there's not many of these around. I got it, I think, just at the end of its production cycle. So it's been replaced with other models, but that particular model you just can't really get anymore.
Is this the one your parents bought you when you were 21?
Yeah, it was my 21st.
Yeah, so it's quite old then.
It is. It's like, well, I think the actual model, like that type of guitar is about 10 years old, I want to say. But mine's a little bit less than that. I think it's only about 8 years old at this stage. But that was pretty much all of my family clubbed together to get me that for my 21st. It was a really, really nice thing to do. But I didn't know how much it was worth at the time. And like now that I've started looking for other guitars, I've like looked at it and I'm just like, I can't, like, it sounds really arrogant. It sounds really shitty. But it's like saying to someone, it's like if I said to you, okay, bloke, so your computer needs replacing. You're used to an i7, you're used to like 32 gig of RAM, you're used to your graphics card. Take an i3 with 4 gig of RAM and this shit entry level thing. Off you go. It's like you wouldn't do it, would you? You wouldn't be able to do it. You'd just be sitting there.
It's the same with cars as well. It's just,
yeah.
The graphics thing is a good comparison. I remember when I was younger, I think it was Half-Life actually. My friends had it, but my friend had a GeForce 2. I think it was a GeForce 2. I can't remember which card it was. No, because I had a Riva TNT 2, which I think was, I don't know. But
yeah, I think
he had like a store-bought computer that his parents had bought him. And it was like from PC World or somewhere.
Yeah.
And it just had like integrated graphics or... No, it might have... I think it had some sort of independent graphics card. Obviously not very good because this was like 1997, 8, years ago. And he could play it on low and it was really slow. And I remember that was how it was played and that was fine. But around about midway through 1998, this is when I got my first computer, like my computer. It wasn't the parents' computer. And one of my uncles helped me put it, like, sorted the parts of me because I didn't really know much at the time about it. And the graphics card I had, which I'm pretty sure was a Riva TNT 2, it could play Half-Life 1, sorry, at 1600 by 1200 resolution at like a really, I don't know what the frame rate was. Let's just say it was 60 for the sake of it, but it would play it at a really fast frame rate, and the game looked amazing. And it was like a completely different thing. I didn't even think it was possible. And I remember when my mate came over, he then went back to his mom and he was like, and like a few weeks later, eventually, like they got a bit of an upgrade, and then he could play. And it's that kind of thing where once you've got the graphics on ultra, you then cannot never have the graphics on ultra again. You just like, I mean, I could never go back to play a game at low. I mean, like, what? You just can't do it. This
is the thing that I'm finding. It's like I'm looking at endless reviews for different guitars, and I started out at like the proper beginner range because like I don't have that much to spend on one, and all of the reviews like, yeah, for a beginner this is great, but if you can't use it too much, and you'll find reviews from actual users, from actual players, and they're like, it's not a bad guitar, but I've played it pretty intensively and I'm starting to get wear on the fretboard and this and that and the other. And I'm like, if I'm playing this every single day and I like get like a kind of a fairly high beginner to kind of, you've been playing for about a year sort of guitar, I'm going to wreck it because I use it all the damn time. It's like there's a reason that one is still just as good as it was when I first got it. And it's because it's a really good quality guitar. If I sit there and I'm like playing Rocksmith for 2 hours every day and I'm streaming it for like 4 hours once a week, maybe twice a week, and the guitar just collapses, it'd be like, well, okay. Because you can't, there's no point getting it repaired, because you might as well just buy a new one, because it's going to cost just as much. So then it's like, what do you do? You just have to go for the...
It's kind of a slight, like the mountain bikes are not as extreme as that, because you can replace components on them quite easily. So, like, I've already destroyed the gears on mine, but they've been replaced with a much more durable gear system, which you would get on a more expensive bike, which should last in theory. I mean, I said to him, what is going to go wrong? I mean, if you Google... it's Rock Rider 520. That's what my bike is. It's a B-twin Rock Rider 520. Like I said to him, what's going to go next? And he's like, well, your crossbar might go. So like your handlebar. And I'm like, that sounds bad. Imagine if you're riding it and your handlebar goes. It's like, the suspension might start to stiffen up, even though it's pretty stiff as it is. And I'm like, okay. The wheels are quite heavy, he said. But, like, I don't... Like, to be honest, like, when weight comes into the equation, I'm not really too fussed, because I know I can go pretty fast on that anyway. And if I did get a lightweight one, I'd go even quicker. But it's kind of more exercise, I suppose, because it's heavier. I don't know. I just... Like, listen, I just enjoy riding it. But it's frightening to me, because I was like, that was... 330 quid is a shitload of money to me. That's like...
Yeah. It really is.
I've paid... for my bills and everything in a month, and like I've had to save up 2 months worth to buy that, and I've bought it and I'm like, this is dear. You know, I don't want it to be shit, and I feel like it's not shit. But then when you're in like an enthusiast place and they're telling you this bike will break when you're riding it at some point because you've basically put, you know, it's like, you know, when you go car insurance and you put down like, I'm going to do 4,000 miles in a year, but then it's like, I've done that, but I've done 8,000 miles already and it's only been a month. It's like, you know, I blew past any kind of limit I should have. So I don't know, like a chain should last for 1,000 miles apparently, but my chain was gone. And I haven't done 1,000 miles, but he said it's just because of how much power you're putting, too much power through the crank than it can handle. And he said it's just gonna, like, it can't handle it. And I'm like, well, I can't pedal it slower. That's shit.
Yeah,
you know?
it's like
it's.
I'm bored bikes. You just sort of potter around it so that you can.
No, but now I need loads of money because now I need a massively good bike. But as we've just established, they're so expensive. Yeah. And not to mention all the other shit you need as well. Like my helmet was like 90 quid.
Yeah, that was something where I was just like, I was sat there and quite a few people very kindly sent me suggestions over Twitter for guitars that were like under 200 quid, which I was like, I really appreciated that. But as I was looking through, the other thing as well is like options. It's like you say with a car, it's like my car has everything. Like it has everything. So if I then got another car that didn't have Bluetooth or didn't have an auxiliary port or didn't have air conditioning or didn't have electric windows, like this isn't as good. Looking at all the guitars, it's like you get one tone adjustment and one volume knob, and that's it. And I'm like, yeah, but on mine, I can tell the guitar.
You almost want to be able to erase it
all the time.
If you could erase it from your mind, like the experience with it, it'd be fine. You would just be totally like you would be happy with it. Like I'm happy with my bike. I'm happy with it. It's fine. I really enjoy riding it. It's comfortable. It feels fast to me, and that's great. And now the gears work. It's fine. It's great. But I know that, like, when they were saying to me, you can, you know, get on one of these bikes if you want, just take it up and down the street. And I'm thinking, no, because I know what'll happen. I'll be like, fucking hell, this feels really nice. And then I'm fucked. And then I am screwed. It's terrible. Anyway, games I've been playing this week, Mr. Kirioth. So I played a game called Call to Arms for about an hour, actually earlier on today. An interesting one, because this is from the guys who made Men of War, or Men at War. Men at War, I think it is, not Men of War. It might be. It's a real-time strategy game. It's kind of like Company of Heroes. I'm going to say a little bit more hardcore than that. That's Men at War, but the Call to Arms is just a modern military take on it. So you've got like the US and like a Taliban style ISIS kind of faction. Like a GLA style faction. There's no single player in this at the moment, which is, I guess, like, well, there's not really much you can say about this because it's in early access on Steam. So, you know, there's no single player, but there's multiplayer. I went into a multiplayer game and it does feel like, it feels like Company of Heroes, kind of like if you guys have played Dawn of War 2 as well, you know, with the cover mechanic, it's got that kind of cover mechanic, but like you can make your guys go to ground and, you know, dive and sprint forward. So it's like more technical in that respect, but it just never really got me. Like it just felt really, well, boring, dare I say it. And
really,
I you know, it wasn't like I was just running in and getting mowed down. I had quite a good game against this guy. He won in the end. It was like a capture point game. There's 3 points that you had to control. But it was, I don't know. I was expecting it to be a bit more
interesting.
I don't know. Like, I can sit down and play Company of Heroes. That's fine. This though was just, I mean, it's got interesting things like Men at War. Is it Men at War or Men of War? It's Men at War, ain't it?
I think it is. Yeah, I'm gonna have
to... Men of War. Yeah, Men of War. Yeah. Because you've got Vietnam Assault Squad and Assault Squad 2. In those games and in this game, you can take control of a unit, direct control. So you can grab a guy and then use him and start shooting him like you take control of what he's doing.
Yeah,
that's nice. That means that you can, like, it's like taking micromanagement to another level. You move your guys in, and then you could take one guy, say a sniper, and start really using the sniper to shoot guys, or maybe grab a tank and drive it in, use it as cover and shoot. So it is interesting in that respect, right? Like, so, on paper, everything sounds good about it.
Is it still like when you take control of an individual guy, it's still the top-down view, but you just
it's
get
still
to...
the top-down view.
You get to do what you want the guy to do, like, independent of everyone else, and they can continue firing at whatever you've designated, but you can get this one guy to pick out certain targets and...
it becomes like an action RPG thing, like Diablo.
That sounds
like,
quite interesting.
On top, and then you can just target and shoot and do whatever you want with the guy. It
is
is interesting.
Or is it just like standard attacks?
Like grenades and shit, and they can dive on the floor. It depends what. There's loads of different infantry types. I was playing as the US. I had like just general assault guys. They had grenade launchers, assault rifles, and pistols. And then there were like marksmen who had sniper rifles.
Yeah.
There were like support guys, mortar teams, anti-infantry, anti-tank teams, defensive teams with like MGs and all this stuff. So there's a load of shit in the game. But I don't know. It really should be a game that I should enjoy playing. But I just was like, this is... I mean, maybe it's just because it was just a 1v1 with a guy on a map that wasn't really that exciting. It was just kind of like, well, it wasn't really that... Well, just that exciting. But I don't know. It's a strange one because it should be good.
Do you reckon maybe it doesn't have the punch that maybe it should because it was not that long since we played Active Aggression? Because that seems like...
But it's not the same game. Yeah, but it's not the same type of game. Like, this is they are RTS games, I guess, but this is much different. This is... You haven't got hundreds of units running all over the screen that are disposable. Active Aggression is just like Generals or the old Active War games or whatever they're bloody called, where it's just about spamming units out. It's a macro game. It isn't really about microing little units around and do whatever. It's just like I built a massive base. I built those guys, sent them out. Man at War is Call to Arms is you deploy troops in your deployment zone and they run into the combat. When you capture the points, you get like deployment tickets, so then you can deploy more troops, and that's what it is. It's like a squad-based game, really. It isn't about fucking loads of guys going in and shitloads of tanks destroying each other and stuff.
So it's going to have things scale, like kind of more personal game in the way that you take control of the units and stuff.
It's more reminiscent of actual modern combat. There's not like a Humvee going around with a squad of guys and maybe an armored fighting vehicle to support. That's what you're going to get. You're not going to get a fucking Kursk-style 1,000-tank battle going on because that doesn't happen anymore. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I think it's okay, and I think I do need to go back and give it another go. But I did come out thinking, well, whatever.
Just kind of underwhelmed, sort of not bad, but also
like, well,
special.
I sort of knew what it was going to be. I knew it was going to be like the older games, but just in the modern setting. But it just was, I don't know.
Yeah.
Need to play it more.
Well, I downloaded, I don't know if you've seen that Race the Sun is free at the moment.
The procedurally generated game on Steam, the race thing, yeah.
If you download it today, you actually get it completely for free, which is not helpful if you're watching because it was yesterday, due to when it was recorded. But I had a quick blast on that because when I've heard about that game over and over again. It's one of those games where the idea of it is very, very simple, but the reaction to it was really, really good, like overwhelmingly positive. Every time I saw it mentioned by any sort of written word site or if I saw any video of it on YouTube, but generally speaking, people were, very like kind of glowing in their reception of it. So I thought to myself, okay, well, this should be pretty good then, because I quite like games like that. One of my favourite games from years ago is Audio Surf, which was...
Yes, where you played to the music.
I stopped playing that, and the only reason I stopped playing that was because there was no Spotify support. Once I got a Spotify subscription, I didn't buy music anymore. I just played music off Spotify, and I still do. So Audio Surf kind of fell by the wayside because the whole point is you play your music, and of course if your music is not in a format that is compatible with the game, you're not going to play the game. But Race the Sun kind of felt kind of reminiscent of that, but I'm struggling to see where all the praise came from because it's just like an okay little game. Like the soundtrack's good. I'll give them that. The soundtrack is quite good, but it doesn't look amazing. It doesn't feel amazing. It doesn't sort of play amazing. It's just kind of your standard endless runner. You're dodging obstacles. You get the odd power up to jump over stuff. And you extend the time that you've got to keep, running forward effectively. So I'm not really sure why it's become as big a deal as it has, because as I was playing it, I was like, yeah, this is all right. But that was it. Like, that was all I thought. And I don't know whether it's because... I don't know whether it's maybe... It looks kind of underwhelming. It could be that, because everything is very simple shapes. Everything is just standard geometry. You've got triangular pyramids, and you've got these big spheres, and you've got these big blocks.
Yeah, and there's light that comes down, isn't there? I think on one of the trailers.
and the ship itself kind of looks okay, but I'm not really
Poly art
sure.
crap.
Yeah, I'm just not sure where people got this kind of massive, I guess, this massive respect for it from, because I'm not going to say it's bad, because it's not. For what it is, it's fine. It's an endless runner, and when you play it, it's a perfectly good endless runner. But at the same time, it's hardly revolutionary. Like, it hardly does anything massively different to games that have, got the same principle or come before. It just looks a bit different, and I'd say the soundtrack's better than any other one I've tried. So I'm not sure where all this is, like, the positivities come from. That being said, for free, like, I'm not going to complain. Like, it could
That's
be
probably where it has come from, because it's free. Talking about this, free games, Rocket League this is a very it's very clever what they've done. They're selling DLC. Well, they're going to sell DLC obviously for the game. It's really small DLC though, and it's only like $3.99. It's like nothing, and it gives you like a little, I think, like a new arena and a couple of cars or something. It's not much, but that's got such a massive installed user base now, because on the PS4 it was free for a start.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to buy it on the PC, but the PS4 I think is the largest base, and I'm pretty sure it's cross-play as well. Like, you play people on the PS4 from the PC, which makes sense, because you really need to use controller for it. Anyway, but that's like a masterstroke, because it's free, and it is a good, like, well, I suppose it's a party game. It's a piss about game. You can't. Well, there will be people out there who sit there and play it religiously, because you do get ranks and you can rank up. But it is a bit of a random game. Like, the ball just goes anywhere. You can't you cannot sort of predict where it's going to go. You sort of can, but it's just like, it's all over the place. It's crazy. It's madness. It's cars playing football, for fuck's sake, that can like boost and do whatever. It's just ridiculous. But it's clever, because everybody gets it. And I know it was big on Twitch, because it is something that's very twitchable. This is now my phrase for games which are like, well, you got YouTube bait, you got twitchable games. It's very much like that. A load of the big streamers started on it. Shitloads of people streaming it. There's loads of YouTube videos, blah blah blah. Massive installed user base. It's free on one of the primary platforms, and now we sell you DLC. They're going to cream loads of money. But I guess in that respect, that game is, I was impressed with it when I played it. But it's not something I haven't played it since I've recorded the video. I just played it and it was like, hey, but now.
I mean, that game's kind of an interesting one, because it's kind of come out. Well, I've got it installed. I just haven't got around to playing it yet. But it's like, it felt to me that it kind of came out of nowhere a bit. It was just like, suddenly, here's Rocket League. It's awesome, and then it was everywhere. It was like, it was kind of 1 minute.
I think there's been games like it before from the same company,
yeah,
or something. I don't know.
I don't know how they've managed it, but they've obviously done something right, because it's kind of exploded to a ridiculous degree. There was a thread on, I think it was the game subreddit, where I think they said that their user base was like doubling every day or something crazy for a short period. Crazy. It was just, it launched, it did quite well, and then it just rolled massively and kept going. I don't know whether it's still doing that, but I'd imagine, especially with it being free on PS4 as well, that would have had a massive effect on it. So, I don't know. I quite like it when games kind of come out of nowhere like that, especially if they're actually decent. Like, I've never got the thing with Ark Survival Evolved. Like, that seemed to blow up massively. But to me, that just looked like another survival game.
What it is, though. Yeah, I know. I mean, I played it. It's one of those games. I mean, this is going to sound really sad, but I don't have any friends who play games with me. Now, if I did, and when I did back in the past, when this wasn't like what I do for a living, you would get together and you would play a game together. And Ark Survival Evolved is definitely something you would say to your 3 or 4 friends, we're going to get this game and we're going to play it, and you would have a stupid time, because it's a game that you need to play with other people. You can't play it on your own, because all will happen is, with Ark, you spend ages collecting stuff, taming dinosaurs, building it up, just for some guy to come and murder you in cold blood. And it's just like, or you log out and then log back in and everything's dead and your dinosaurs have been butchered. They're games like, when you see like some of the, Vanos is a big YouTube channel, and it's just like, him and his mates playing games, and they just make highlights out of whatever they play. But the games that they play are like really surreal shit, like crazy mods for Gary's mod. Like there's one I seen recently, which was like Toy Story. Andy. His bedroom.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, this is crazy surreal shit. One person plays as Buzz Lightyear, and everybody else plays as all the other toys, right? And you have to pass Buzz Lightyear's like Galactic Space Ranger test, but the player playing as Buzz Lightyear is standing on like a a walkway above where the players are, and he can hit a button, right, by, I guess, pressing E, because it's just a Half-Life edit, and this will activate the trap, and he's got to try and kill as many of the toys as possible in each of these traps, and if you get all the way to the end, then you win, and you can be Buzz Lightyear. It's like, it's totally crazy.
What the hell? Yeah.
You would never play that on your own. Like, I would never play that on my own. It's just like,
yeah.
You know, whereas I could sit there and play World of Warships or something on my own because I'm just, you know, that's fine. So I don't know. With games like that, Ark Survival Evolved, I understand why there is a shit ton of people who played it. Same for Rocket League as well.
Yeah.
You need people to play it with. If you don't have people who are going to play it with you, then you sort of just like, ah.
You just kind of...
You don't care.
Yeah, it's one of those not to be played alone games.
Yeah.
So you've done Call it a self good one. It's called now. That's quite bad. Call to Arms.
Yeah.
Wasn't there? I could have sworn that you played some. Maybe it was Act of Aggression that you were talked about last week. I'm absolutely out of it. I spent so long in that damn garage surrounded by cardboard fumes that my brain's starting to melt. It's really bad. Because I just remember trying to think. I did have a game of Dawn of War again the other day. Dawn of War 2. I had to uninstall the Elite mod because it crashed the first time. But I went in, for nostalgia's sake, I went in for a 1v1 just because I was like...
And people still play Dawn of War 2 traditional 1v1?
Yeah. I found it quite quickly. It was like 1:45 in the morning, so I'm kind of impressed I got a game. But I was like, I was not getting to sleep. It was one of those, you know, when you sort of sit and you're like,
yeah.
But I'm nowhere tired. I was like, fuck it, I'll have a go. And I brought out Chaos because, you know, Chaos was my boys.
Cultists.
Yeah, bloody grenade launcher cultists. I did get one unit of them, but no more than one because they're nowhere near as good as they used to be. That game, even when it's not balanced the way Elite's balanced, it still holds up and it was still enjoyable. I mean, I lost by a very slim margin. It was really, really close, but I did lose in the end. But it kind of got me I guess hankering for more one-on-one experiences in like a kind of, I guess, like a ranked setting, like a kind of matchmaking setting, because I don't do that anymore. That's not something I really do. I mean, the closest I come to that really is World of Warships, but that's, you know, they've got two massive teams of people there.
It's when I was telling you about Starcraft Legacy of the Void when I was playing that the other day. That I have not been following it at all, and it blew my mind that Starcraft 2 is 5 years old now. That was the game that I first realized that, hey, there's videos on YouTube for games.
Yeah.
And it was about a year after that. I was like, yep, because Unit Lost is about 4 years old.
It was Crota, wasn't it? We used to watch Crota battle reports. You used to send them to me.
Because I was like, look at the
not battle reports.
Outcasts.
Yeah, that's it.
And it was like, look at this, you can learn off other people.
Yeah.
And it blew my mind. And then, like, you know, about a year later, say Unit Lost about 4 years old, we started the YouTube channel. So it's like, well, that's like crazy to think that. But anyway, StarCraft 2. Legacy of the Void, I'd not followed its development at all. But this was my 1v1 fix that I used to get quite a lot because I got to Diamond in old... I was like mid-table Diamond 1v1 in old StarCraft Wings of Liberty. In Heart of the Swarm, I only played it a little bit and didn't really play it much. Legacy of the Void, I didn't really care about Legacy of the Void because I just don't care. But I played it anyway because I've got beta access to it. And it was... You know, after I've played like Act of Aggression and other games like that, it kind of reminded me that I was never really a fan of StarCraft. I was never really a fan of the original StarCraft because I found it a bit boring how you had to micromanage all of the fucking units all the time. Yeah. StarCraft 2, though, I did get into it and did start playing it. I think it was just because it was new and it was fresh and whatever. Legacy of the Void, though, adds a load of new units into the game. Well, like maybe 2 or 3 units per faction. It depends on what faction it is. The Protoss get a new ranged zealot, effectively. He's just it's a female, it's an adept, it's called, and it throws like bolts of psi energy out or something. But when you upgrade it through the I don't know what building it's through actually. I don't think it's the Templar Archives, it's through something else.
Yeah.
It can make itself invincible, increase its movement speed by like a crazy amount for about 3 seconds, run forward, and wherever it ends, that's where it teleports to. So it makes a shade of itself. The shade runs away and it's dead quick, but invincible. And then zooms the thing to it. And I'm like, holy shit, that is like micro nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've never been that much of a super duper fan of RTS games that rely on units with abilities. I don't like that. I don't like turning on all their abilities. I just want to know what the unit does and send it forward. Like having to spam this and spam that. It's like Dawn of War. I will forget to do like the Force Commander's shout when you go into combat, or forget that he's got abilities because he's got different items on him. And I forget, and it's annoying because they're like so powerful when you use them correctly. But I'm just not of that mindset to do that, you know?
Yeah.
And there was another thing for the Protoss, which is like it comes out the robotics bay. It's a ball which moves around, but you can detonate this, but it doesn't have an attack. Like it doesn't have like an auto attack or anything. It just does nothing.
So is it like
it blows up.
like a float? What is it? Is it the Widow Mine? Like a floating kind of ball version of that?
Oh, the Widow Mines. Yeah, it's kind of but it's reusable. You can detonate it and blow it up, and it moves pretty quick. I think what this is for is dropping into mineral lines, so you can run in, blows up like about 10 harvesters, and then runs away. You couldn't send it into an army because it would just get destroyed straight away. It's like a harassment unit again. That's like a shitload of micro, and that game has gone from, obviously it's Starcraft, so it's got micro in it, but it just seems like it gets more and more like harder as time goes on. Like now, if you tried to play that game now, you would get fucked. I mean, Terran, you don't have to research siege tech, I don't think, anymore. That might have been from Warm, I don't know, I'm not sure. But they get an aircraft. I forget what it's called, but it's really big. And it's an air superiority fighter, so it's really good in air-to-air. Like, it's better than a Viking. But the Viking can turn into the little ground thing, can't it?
I thought Vikings were already pretty good, weren't they?
I think it's better than a Viking. But I bet a Viking could kill it if you microed the Viking, because I think the Viking's got more range.
Oh, right.
Anyway, this thing can turn into a aerial ground defense platform. So you turn it on, you click the ability, right? And then you click on the floor where you want it to go. And it stays stationary within a range, and this so imagine this is the craft.
Yeah.
I select the ability here. Yeah. Well, like there. It turns into like an aerial gun turret like that, and it just hovers, and anything that comes to there, it does so much damage. It is fucking ridiculous. You know, roaches for the Zerg, it was killing them with one hit. It was like
Jesus Christ.
It was dead powerful. I was like, oh god. So, like, as a defensive thing, that's pretty good. Obviously, as a harassment thing, it'd be good as well. You could, like, fly outside of the base and then put the thing down in the mineral. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is more like insanity. They got, like, a little missile truck thing, which I forget the bloody name of it. Now, this thing is really quick, and it's got, like, a pretty long range, and it fires missiles. It does, like, a shitload of damage, really. It's weak, so it can be taken out pretty quick. But its ability is this target lock-on, where it can lock onto a unit, and it just increases its rate of fire, and it can move while it's firing at that unit. So, what does this mean? Well, in like an engagement against like two armies coming together, you don't want to be, say you're playing against the Terran, you wouldn't use this missile thing against a Marine, would you? You'd want to try and get its lock on onto a fancier unit, like a siege tank or something, to blow it up quick. But if they've got like 10 siege tanks and then they've got something, you're just going to be in a nightmare of trying to click this ability while you do your other shit. It's just insane. Like, and I mean, I know the pro gamers are ridiculous for StarCraft. I know they're ridiculous. It's like the hardest esport going. It's ridiculous. I'm just like, I can't, like, that game now, I'll play the single player when it comes out just because I wanted the story to end. I know it's Blizzard, so it's a shit story, but I want to play it for that, and that's fine. But
it is kind of weird that, like, I feel like StarCraft 2, the entire game, is literally just aimed towards the vast minority of pro gamers. Like, that's what all of it's aimed at. All of the units are like, everything's so micro heavy, and you've got to have decent macro, otherwise you cannot really do anything with the micro units, because once they die, you're never going to get them back because you run out of money. It feels like the entire game is aimed not at the however many thousands of people actually play it, but at the like 100 best players out of all of them. Like, that's who the game is for, and everyone else has to either get to that point or just not be anywhere, you know, not get as much out of it as those people do. It's a weird one. It's really weird because I don't know, like, Dota 2 is really complicated, but I feel like given enough time, I could pick up Dota 2. Like, I could pick maybe a few heroes and become good at it.
StarCraft isn't complicated. Dota 2, maybe say is more complicated. The problem with StarCraft, it is all about execution all the time. Dota is about execution when there's like, I don't know, like a gank going on or something, or some sort of little team fight. StarCraft is about that the entire game.
Yeah,
it's like the amount of decisions you have to make is completely ridiculous. It's like, I mean, there's been moments where I've had just pure competitive clarity playing that game, and everything I've done has been completely perfect. I've done what I needed to do. I've got intel on the guy. I know what he's doing. I've done completely what's required to kill him. Everything's been fine. It's been awesome. But then you get moments where, for like a second, it's almost like you playing Rocksmith. You miss a beat, and it's like, uh-oh, and you never recover, and you just crumble and die. And it's very unforgiving. It's the problem with the game is it's too hard for people to get into now. You could never say to somebody, go and pick up StarCraft 2, because everybody's played it for too long now, and they're just going to be better than you because they've played it for longer, I'm afraid, just how it is. Yeah, you could maybe get decent at the game, but it's kind of like playing an MMO when people have played the game for 10 years and you just turned up fresh as a daisy and you want to like catch up. I guess you can catch up because the tiers change when you do get to the top tier. It doesn't matter that they've put hundreds of hours in raiding the last expansion because we're on the new one of whatever MMO, so you do kind of catch up that way. StarCraft's a bit different because it is skill based. It really, like, if you have the skill, you are better.
Yeah.
And if you've been practicing for 5 years, you are way better. Why do the Koreans keep winning over and over again?
All the time.
It's because they play it all the time, and they have done for years and years and years.
Yeah, I really like that analogy, by the way, of missing a note in Rocksmith, because that's something that there's certain songs in Rocksmith where the game reckons I can do a certain part of it because I've done it once, and I've done it once, and I've gone to do it again. I've overthought it, and every time I hit the same stumbling block. And I feel like that when I used to play StarCraft 2 only on and off, but I did have a very brief, terrible Wood League career in StarCraft 2, the first one as Protoss, and that feeling that you talked about is exactly the same. Like when you learn a build and you just stick to that build by rote. I think was it 4-gate that I tried to learn.
Yeah.
You know, no look at anything, just learn all the timings and if you miss something, it was like fuck. That's it's like it completely it doesn't destroy you for the rest of the game, but there will be a point where you're like, shit, what do I do now? And I get that. There's one. It's not Stockholm Syndrome. It's a different Muse song. I can't remember which one it is. Where when it gets to the solo, I can do the entire solo. No. Damn it, this is really annoying me. What is it? I feel like I should know because I played it in
Black Hole.
That's really easy. I quite like that one.
I bet it is.
It's so easy.
Black Hole.
But I get to one particular point, and every time, like Hysteria, that's it. I can play pretty much the entire solo from Hysteria, and you can see this on VODs on the Twitch channel. But there's a bridge between the first part of the solo and the second part of the solo. I always miss the bridge because I always get the first note wrong, and there's no time to recover between that first note going wrong and the second part of the solo. And I do it every single time. And every single time, even on stream, I'm like, well, I fucked that up. And I do it, and it's now got to the point where I've done it so often that at some point I'm going to have to sit down and just go over that one part of that song over and over and over again to get it right. And that's exactly what would happen to me in StarCraft 2.
That's what StarCraft is about, though. I mean, like, this is what got me sort of hooked on it for a couple of months solid, because you can watch a replay back and you can see where you went wrong, and then you can fix it. Now, if you're into that, you can really get into it. What got me off it was I realized the amount of time it is a job. You cannot, like, if you want to get good at that game, it is all you are doing. You can't just play it for an hour and be fine. It's like, no, you have to have purpose. It's like going out for a training session every single time. It's really intense. You can't just sit down and like have a chilled out game of it, because the other guy is not chilled out. He's gonna fuck you up with his 10,000 APM. It's intense. It is intense.
Yeah. Well, another game that I've played this week, which is a really nice a really nice surprise, and I'll stick the video on the channel. Not on the channel. What am I talking about? On the screen. My brain is utterly broken today. I don't know what's going on. Was something that was sent for Steam Gift Gamble, and it was TIMEframe, which, as always with Steam Gift Gamble, I had no idea what it was. But I assume the worst because the person who sent it me very kindly changed their Steam tag from whatever their normal username is to Frankie Fan for Life, and which made me laugh. And the message was, "I know you like this sort of thing," which people tend to put when they're sending me something that they think I'll hate, which is fine because that's what Steam Gift Gamble is. It's just, I'll play anything you send me. But I went into it and I was like, this is going to be something really shit. I know it's going to be something really shit. From someone with that name, with that message, it's going to be terrible. And straight away, I mean, even in the video, I'm like walking around and I'm like, well, I've got no jump. There's no like action button except the left mouse click. Therefore, it's just going to be a shit walking simulator. That's all it's going to be. And it actually turned out to be exactly a walking simulator, funnily enough. But for the first time in ages, it was not shit. Which, considering I want to say the only decent walking simulator I've played up until this point was Journey. Like, because that's effectively what that is. It's the same principle.
Yeah.
You can jump about and make little sparkly noises around yourself, but there's no combat, there's no kind of quests, there's no interaction really apart from other people, and even then your interaction is making sparkly noises around yourself. But TIMEframe had like a really, really interesting, I guess, mechanic that I've not really come across from anything else, which is that the world resets itself every 10 minutes. So you're in this valley and you start out at this massive spire, and sort of behind you is like a range of mountains. In front of you is a massive wall with a colossal gate that's locked. You're never going to get through it. It's just, that's what it is. And time is completely still. So when you move about, I even said at the start, I was like, okay, so there's like a massive wall over there, and there's kind of these big brazier things with fire, but the fire isn't moving, so that's a bit shit. Because I thought that was just like the game was crap.
But time was standing still.
Yeah, and actually, once I got to an area, I got to a building where there's like an artificial waterfall built down it, and the water's completely still. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So actually, it's not the game's crap. It's just that time is still, and that's part of it. Because I didn't know that was the premise of the game, I kind of didn't pay attention to the fact that there was like this little sparkly bit in the sky, which I'm just going to try and find now. Which it turns out is in fact a massive asteroid.
Oh, and it's going to blow you up like?
Yeah, and what happens is, there we go. And you can see it here. It grows. Like, as the time goes on, as the 10 minutes goes by, because it's every 10 minutes it hits, it gets bigger in the sky. Like, it's not in the sky at the start, and then you get like this little kind of sparkliness in the sky.
Yeah, I can see it, yeah.
And then it slowly builds and builds until this bloody massive asteroid just really, I mean, it's really slow. I really like the fact they've made it slow. It's not like a cataclysmic event in that it's like kind of, oh god, and then suddenly it's over. It just drifts into the spire. And the premise of the game is basically that this thing called the Nomad, which is this massive asteroid, it hits the spire. I'm assuming before the spire was built, it hits somewhere else, but it resets time for like everybody. Because every time it hits, you end up back at the spire. So if you've walked halfway across the valley, then tough shit. As soon as it hits the spire and the screen goes white, you are back where you started, and you've got to start your journey again. So you're kind of forced to go to places as quickly as possible. It kind of encourages you to look around and see what you can see, but it gives you a map and it tells you where these different monuments are, these ruins and these symbols, and it's like, that that's where you're supposed to go. The thing you're looking for is vaguely in that direction, so you have to go to it. And at each of the different places, there's just a short note or a symbol that kind of fills in. It's a very sparse story, but they give you enough information to kind of build up an idea of what's going on.
So, is that what the point is? You've got to try and make it to these story pickups almost.
You've got to go and find these little bits of information, and then once you've collected all of them, a new spot appears on the map. Which I actually found before it appeared on the map just by accident. I happened to look off to the right. I went during this video. I went to the left, out of the spire because there's two different exits away from the sun, and in the other one, which will be up either today or yesterday, I went right towards the sun. And it was only because I went right, and then I got myself confused. Like, the map's very basic. It's just, you've got the symbol of the spire in the middle, and you've got the dots around the edge, and that's it. So there's there's no real sense of distance, or at least there might be, but I have no sense of distance. So I was like, I think it's over there, and then I ended up going like too far off to the right, and there's this kind of weird structure. It's like the only thing on the map that doesn't look like a ruin or doesn't look like it was abandoned in a hurry. And once you've collected all the other areas, it lights up. Like on the map, it appears there's this little cross at the top. So you go to this crystal, and it doesn't do anything unless you've collected everything on the map. And you build up the story by going through, and there's not, when I say there's not a lot of story, I feel like there is a lot of story. It's just presented in very small chunks, and you kind of end up filling in all of the gaps yourself. Like, I don't think the way they've done it, it doesn't need to be hugely detailed, because you get these little glimpses. So like everything off to the left was from one, what they call cycle, which was like, it was almost like a, not barbaric, but like not enlightened. Like it's kind of maybe kind of 1000 AD instead of 2000 AD, that kind of thing. It's like there's a lot of kind of pagan stuff going on. There's, you know, worshipping water and stuff because it's obviously in rare supply because it's a desert planet.
Yeah.
And you kind of get this story of how there's different cults almost. There's like some that believe the nomad when it hits is going to bring salvation and it's going to, you know, raise them all up and they're going to be, you know, one with the nomad, which they kind of effectively believe is some kind of god. There's another group that believes the nomad is there to punish them for all their sins and all their, you know, misdoings. And then you've got kind of another one, which is, I'm going to say midway between the two. It's like they don't know what the nomad is, only that it's more powerful than anything they've got. So it's like during that cycle, there's obviously a lot of superstition and a lot of guesswork and, you know, we don't really understand what's happening. And some people think it's the end of the world. Other people think it's the start of a brand new world. And then off to the right, you've got like a more enlightened age where you've got things like technology and an actual knowledge and stuff. Like there's a telescope that you find, which you actually, it says when you click on it, it's like they can see this foreign object coming towards the planet. And they know that it's coming from space. They know that it's not anything that's originated here. And they know it's going to impact. And they're like, is this the thing that was referenced by these people who came before us? And then you've got like guys who can bend time almost. They refer to time as streams. And they're like, they can bend the streams and affect the flow of time. Can they do anything about it? And then it turns out they can't do anything about it either. You've got a big city in there as well, which like the people there kind of, they think it's just going to be the end of the world. So they leave. Like they just up and disappear. They're like, we're not staying here. We're leaving. I'm assuming through the massive gate and the massive wall, which is then locked behind them. But then you've got others who are kind of still a bit religious-y. They think that there's going to be some kind of, they call it the aggregariat, which I'm assuming meant that they thought that there was like a big collective consciousness. So that like when the nomad hit, everyone would kind of be one person. Like everything would be kind of clumped together. Like one huge shared
aggregate
consciousness.
mass of the consciousness.
Yeah. And then you've got these crazy crystals that are being mined, which, you know, it shows that they know about technology and they've made leaps and advancements because it's like these crystals get power from light. So they obviously know what power is, like what actual powered stuff is. And so you've got all these different kind of factions from different points in time. And the thing that ties them all together is this kind of, this knowledge that the nomad is real, but they're not sure what it's for. There's a shared kind of idea of this aggregariat where there's, you know, some sort of shared consciousness, or almost like some of them, I think, kind of thought that it's some kind of being that would redeem them or save them when the nomad hits again. And there's all the way through, there's like the odd talk of this thing called the catalyst, which at the time I was like, okay, so what is the catalyst? And when I found that crazy place with the big crystal at the back, which is obviously like something they'd made, it's like they'd constructed this themselves out of the crystal they'd mined from the earth. I thought that was the catalyst. But as you go through, eventually you pick up all this stuff. In the spire itself, it talks about there being an index, and like it's the index of all the knowledge of this world. It's like everything they've learned and everyone's memories and, you know, emotions and just the shared kind of human experience is part of this index, and they need the catalyst to do something with it. I decided, and I don't know whether once people have watched it, I don't know whether they'll agree with it or not, but at this point I'm pretty convinced that you are the catalyst.
Yeah.
Like the crystal is the aggregariate. The index is all of the knowledge that's been placed around the spire in these ruins. You collect it all, then you take it to the crystal. You're the catalyst because you activate it by putting the knowledge of everything you've learnt into it, and then the crystal literally leaves the planet. It goes straight up in a beam of light straight into the sky, and the game ends. But you're still left there. So I don't know. It's like there's something I really like is like decent narrative experiences in games. Like I like games with a story where they don't just spell it out for you, where it's not just like this is what's happening, bang. Like I enjoy the stupid campaigns for like Call of Duty, but not because they have a good story, but because it's stupid and it's blowing stuff up. I much prefer things like Transistor because there's a very clear story there. But if you dig deeper, if you dig further, and if you kind of come to your own conclusions, you can fill it out more. And despite the fact that there's nothing in the way of combat, there's like you don't even make any noise when you move. Even though it's like really simple, the game itself is really, really attractive. Like it looks really good. The way they've done the landscape, the way they've designed the Nomad itself and the spire that's in the center of the map look really good. The way they've spread the story out, I really liked, and I liked the way it was written as well, because it was like it was English, but it was written in an almost biblical way. It's like when people talk about examining old texts and stuff, it's like slightly off, which kind of gives it that impression of being written a long time ago. And I think one of the things I really liked was that element of you've got 10 minutes. It's like every time. It's like you've got 10 minutes until the Nomad hits. Do you rush to each of the things and try and read it all and then get to the next thing? Or do you take it slow? You know, do you look around? Do you make the game go on longer? Because I think realistically, if you follow a sensible path, which I didn't because I didn't know what I was doing and I didn't know what it was until like 20 minutes into the game, you could conceivably finish it probably in about an hour, maybe a little bit over.
Yes, but this game has no replayability. That's the thing. It's not. You are not going to come back to it and speed run the game, are you? The game is about your first time experience, isn't it? It's the same as Journey. That is about your first time experience.
Yeah.
And you know what? These walking simulator games, this is very similar to Journey in the sense of it's got like it's a bit mysterious, but also what it presents you with, it gives you sort of have to fill in the blanks yourself.
Yeah.
Journey had a really nice movement system, so you did enjoy moving around in Journey. You know, this has got the time mechanic, you know. But I mean, how many walking simulators are out there which are just totally shit? There's too many to count. These are where, you know, I would class these as like art. Every game is art, but this is like an abstract experience.
Yeah,
very abstract.
That's something where I think I even said at the end of the second part, I was like, I don't like using the word experience because I think people use it too often. I think it's overused. I think anytime someone plays a game where they feel moved or feel that it was particularly impressive, it's like, oh, this was an experience. And it's like, well, I suppose kind of, but it's still at its core a game. With stuff like this, there's no fail state for this. You know, there's no way to not complete TIMEframe unless you just turn it off. You know, you can't die. I fell off something at one point and didn't die. Like, it was a massive drop. I still survived because that's not the point of the game. But it is something where you kind of come away from it not thinking that was a really good game, but thinking I really enjoyed that experience. Like, that's something that was like genuinely memorable. And I think it's a combination of that mechanic of, you know, you've got 10 minutes before this happens, and also as you go through, like, the more stuff you collect, time starts to seep back into the world as well, which I thought was a nice touch. Like, it was only a small thing, and I think it's quite easy to kind of not notice, but at the very start where the flames are still and the water's still, as you go through and you collect more information, you start to see the flames move just a little bit. Just a bit, and then the more stuff you get, it's like the world's kind of waking up again. Which it's like it's a walking simulator, but it's got lots of small touches that make it more than a walking simulator. It makes it something that's actually compelling, and that's my biggest issue with walking simulators in general. There's no compelling reason to play them. It's like if you dump me in the middle of a forest,
just walking around and looking at scenery is nothing. It's like, right, that's crap. Yeah,
there's no drive. There's no reason for me to do that. There's no narrative experience. There's just there's no incentive. Whereas if you stick me in a landscape like that, where it's obviously somewhere completely different, that's the other problem I've got. Stuff like Dear Esther and Go Home and not Gone Home. Gone Home.
Go home.
Go Home. Home is where it starts, or whatever that one was called. Thanks, dog. And the other one that I played, Drivel Path. They are all very obviously places that are like modern. You know, you've got cottages and houses, and you've got wrecked cars and shit, usually lifted straight out of the Unity.
Well, it was like Colab when I played that. That was basically set in the USSR. It was fairly modern-ish, like set in the 70s, I think. You know, that was. I mean, that's the only one I've played recently, and that did have. Graphically, it was impressive, but it put you in a place where you had to work out what was going on. These people have gone missing. You've got to find them. And that is the same sort of thing as Time Shift, because you have a base camp, like a point of origin, and you have to go out and explore and find these clues as to what happened to each of these people. And it tells you around about where they are, but it doesn't. You have no mini map. You don't know where you are. You have a map, but you just have to try and look at things in the world, and it's kind of more involving that way. It's very similar to TIMEframe when I think about it. The same sort of like core thing of like you are in a central point, and you must go out and find story elements, which will then advance the game. Obviously, in that game, you could die though. You could get killed. Like there were things would happen, and you would have to like either run fast or like jump out of the way or something. You would die.
But that's
whatever the hell was that going on.
That's the kind of thing that I like. Where it's like there's a reason to be there, and there's a reason to do what you're doing. I cannot stand the idea that people seem to like just being dropped in just like a cut and paste forest, and then they walk down a path and they get to a house, and then they walk past the house, and there's another copy paste forest, and then they walk past that, and there's a river, then they walk past that, there's more it's like, it's not extraordinary scenery. It's not something that you won't ever have seen before. I'm afraid, I know people like doing it with Oculus Rift and VR and stuff, but I'll be honest with you, we're still not at a point where I can look at a game where there's nothing else to do but walk and go, this looks so good, I'm happy to just walk around it. We're not at that stage. Until we get to like photorealistic graphics, I'm not going to feel that way. And that's why I like things like TIMEframe and Journey, because you're presented with like a very minimalist landscape. It's been done in such a way that there's, on the face of it, not a huge amount of detail, but they've created a very striking world where it's not just looking at a tree that's come straight out of Unreal 4. You know, you're looking at something that is different and unique, and you haven't really seen anything quite like it. And, the more you explore, the more new and interesting and unique things you see. You don't see the same wrecked car 8 times in a row. Instead, you see, like in the example of TIMEframe, you see a city that you didn't even know was there. It was hidden, like, in a valley behind a hill. So you kind of crest the hill and you're like, holy shit, look at this. Everywhere else is, like, small buildings, or, like, temples, or a tree or something, or a statue. This is like, oh my god, look at this. I've not seen that from any other walking simulator, because they don't try and do that. It's just a sightseeing tour for most of them. Whereas stuff like this, I feel like it's almost a disservice to call them just a walking simulator, even though that's what they are, because it's like they're making an effort to be more than just look at the pretty tree. It's like there is a reason to be here. What's happening here? Why has it happened? What can you do to change it? Go and explore this. You need to explore this. You've got 10 minutes to explore this. Off you go. Instead of, here's a woodland path, knock yourself out. It's like there's just no comparison. But it's one of those games where I didn't expect to like it from the first couple of minutes of playing it, and I like it when I get surprised by stuff. Like, it's something that I wouldn't really have looked at unless someone had sent it to me. But I'm actually really glad that I played it, because it's one of those nice surprises where you sit back afterwards and think, that was actually enjoyable, that was fun, and I wouldn't have expected it, and I wouldn't have played it. But I feel kind of more, I guess, enlightened from the fact that I have. It's like an extra experience amongst all the other games that I've played.
Kind of. It's like with me playing Journey for the first time the other week. It was, I felt like it was good to play. I don't want to play it again. I'm never going to play it again. I tell you that straight away. But I felt that okay, I get what people were going on about. It is a bit different. It's it's fine. You don't win. You just play through the game, and that's fine. And it's great. happy with the way the character moved, and you could see it was very polished and stuff like that. You know, and it's fine. I think there is a place for these games, but there are too many games which just are shit, and like these walking simulators that just are literally are walking around with no other point than we've just shoehorned in some crap story. When it is something which is intriguing, and you can see they've, because I think with the walking simulator, you need to spend more time on the bloody story than the actual development of the game itself. Because if you don't, then you just end up with shit and nobody cares. It's all about sound design. It's all about the way you deliver stuff. It's not just like, wow, like you said, we've got a shitload of Unreal Engine 4 assets. We've rammed them down and look at this. Ooh, let's walk around. And the story is about somebody's gone missing. Where have they gone? Oh, who knows? It's like, we don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
But I've got to be honest, this is still not a genre I would be. You know, I never even knew this time frame game existed.
Well, it's like
Journey's been out for years, and I could have played it on my PS3, but I'd never.
It's not something. Bothered, you know? It's not something I'd seek out. And I think if I'd have seen it in the Steam store, which like up until someone sent it me, I hadn't. I'd have just been like, oh, okay, and I would have just like not even acknowledged it. It would have been like, you know, when you go on the new releases and you just see endless indie games, and it's like, they don't stand out. It's just like, oh, whatever. And then you just carry on. It would have been like that, but I'm glad I played it now because it was a good experience. It was enjoyable and it made you think, which is, I like that in any game. Any game that makes you think is good in my book.
Well, I guess like in terms of other games, I mean, I pissed around on World of Warships and whatever, but I did make a video on Warhammer, Total War Warhammer, which it's interesting because I've watched the trailer back a few times. I was just looking at the comments on the video, which is obviously out on the channel now. Somebody said the Battle of Carthage, which they released for Rome 2, which I thought was really impressive at the time, looks nothing like the actual Battle of Carthage in the game, and they got slammed for that. So they're saying you've got to be careful with these like things that they release. I mean, admittedly, the battle itself, that Warhammer, the whatever the battle was called, was just a pitched battle between armies. It wasn't anything fancy, because the Battle of Carthage, if you remember, had like naval units, and the Carth was there, and it was getting wrecked with artillery and loads of and it was like really impressive, that was. But Warhammer Fantasy Battles, actually talking about the comments, some guy made a comment which makes no sense at all. He said, why wouldn't they use Warhammer Fantasy Battles for Total Warhammer? Age of Sigmar wouldn't really make a lot of sense in this game. I don't think it's weird, to be honest. At no point in the video did I say they should be making an Age of Sigmar Total War. I said it's weird that they are making a Total War Fantasy Battles game after they've discontinued Total War Fantasy Battles. That's what I said. You fucking idiot, David Gillen. Anyway, it looks like this could be Total War game to redeem Creative Assembly in my mind, because the scale looks large. Like, it really looks like this is bigger than like Total War has been. There's a lot of units on the field. It looks crazy. You've got hero units, you've got spells, you've got other stuff, you've got big, giant, crazy monsters running around, smashing people in. It looks like it could be good, but it's Creative Assembly, and that means that it could possibly launch like a piece of shit and be really unplayable, and only the diehard fans are going to bother with it, and a few months down the line, nobody's going to care. You know, I really don't want that to
be the case, though, because we've been starved of decent.
It's a match made in heaven.
Recently. It really is a match made in heaven. It's perfect
for
it, and they've kind of, the way they've done things with chaos and stuff in the trailers so far. That's like a nice, interesting take on it. It's not just your standard, oh, and here's chaos, they're evil kind of thing. It's a lot more insidious, and kind of adding that to it instead of just piling it in as just another. I don't know. It looks like they've got the right idea, but as you say, it's Creative Assembly, and it's like it can just be so hit and miss. It's like it could just be an absolute disaster when it launches. But the thing is, I mean, realistically, could they even get away with launching it like in a terrible state after?
Well, I think Creative Assembly have got like a batch of hardcore fans. Now, I don't know what the sales figures are. Rome 2 would have sold really well, and then would have been like, oh, this game's crap. I mean, if Steam refunds were out, they would have got slaughtered because people would have just been sending the game back. Attila came out, and Attila was a bit like I didn't care about Attila. I didn't really see that much about Attila. But I think the diehard Total War fans obviously would buy Attila because it is, the next Total War game. It's very similar. I know I'm probably going to get slaughtered for saying this, but I just feel like it's very similar to Rome 2. It even looks the same, really. with the same UI and everything. And I think it's kind of worse because I don't care about Attila. I care about the Romans. They're way better, than Attila. He's boring, he's just a fucking nut who just goes around on his horse, what the hell. So I think the sales of that were like probably what they'd expect from a Total War game. That's just a generic Total War game. Fantasy, though, the Warhammer Fantasy could be massive. Like, this could be massive sales-wise because I am now interested in it, and there'll be a load of other people are. Yeah. And also people who don't care about Warhammer but have always wanted, like, a fantasy-style Total War. Because you can only get that through mods at the moment. So if they're going to give you an official... I mean, things like casting spells and ridiculous monstrous creatures and whatever.
And dragons and shit. That's like...
Yeah, you could get that with, like, King Arthur 2 in that game. It's not even a patch on Total War.
Yeah.
Right? So there will be people out there who'll be like, holy shit, a fantasy Total War. This could be great. And instantly, you ask me, I think it's way better than Attila. That's boring as shit. Or even like Empire Total War or whatever. The Rome Total War, that's a different ball game. That's like the Romans. Everybody knows the Romans. This, though, I think this could be really big. And they really need to sort it out and not have a bag of shit launch because they'll get screwed. They'll have massive Steam refunds now to contest with as well. Which is, we all know what happened to Batman.
Yep.
When that launched in terrible state, and also Final Fantasy something or other
got
refunded.
Back until what month are we on now? We're on July,
late August, I think.
Yeah,
is it September or something?
Is it late August, early September? I think it's not coming back to you. That is a long time. That is a long time for a new game that's been pulled to then come back. But yeah, I watching it, I'm like, on the one hand, it does look really good. I agree with quite a few of the things you said about like the animations and stuff. Like the giant, I realise you can't have him wipe out masses of infantry with one hit, but it still looks odd that he's carrying a club and he doesn't use it. I mean, I understand that that's what he looks like.
My biggest gripe with Total War is just the way the units interact when they're in a battle. It makes me laugh. When I streamed Attila a couple of months ago, like Total War promoted it for some reason, and I'm laughing at the animations. They're so bad. Like the guys run together. And then they just stand there. It's like, oh, okay, chap. Bob's died. It's my go now.
It's like,
I've died. It just is really crap. Like with the giant. Go on.
It reminds me of when you watch like martial arts films, or like any film that involves multiple people fighting one guy. Where there's like one guy runs in and the other 20 just stand there and wait until he's been punched in the face, and then another one runs in. That's what it feels like, but it feels like that on a ridiculous scale because they're all doing it. Like, both sides are just standing there. You've got two guys hacking away at each other, and then like 50 guys behind them just going, yeah, go on, Dave. And then Dave dies, and then another one steps up and then kills the guy that just killed Dave. And it's like,
with the giant,
need to get that impact that they don't have it.
They don't seem to be able to do it. With the giant as well, when he's wading through the infantry, the infantry are just standing next to him.
Yeah.
What would you do if you were a spearman and there was a fucking giant standing by you? You'd back off, wouldn't you? You'd be circling him. You'd back off in a circle around this giant with your spears aimed at him, wouldn't you? You wouldn't just be standing next to him. Like there's obviously ones that are trying to attack, and then there's ones just standing like aimlessly, not even looking at the giant, getting knocked around. And all the Total War games do this. They all do that. There's always like a ton of guys in a unit who are just like aimlessly looking around, all stupid. It's like you would think they would look at the battle, and I don't know how odd that is to program or whatever the hell the issue is, but they've always been dodgy like that for me, and I can't look past that because I'm not a die-hard history fan. I don't know everything about all of the different factions in Attila or all of that stuff. I just want to see a cinematic battle happen, and it really kills the immersion for me when guys run together and then just stop and have like a gentlemanly discussion about who's died and who's going to die next. It's not very visceral. It's just like,
it's not satisfying, and it needs to be satisfying.
And they're getting away with it in this video, saying, "Oh, but it's pre-alpha." Like the charge, they were like, "Yeah, the charge mechanic, well, the charge impact will be fixed. It's just pre-alpha. Don't worry about it. The spells will look better. It's just pre-alpha. Don't worry about it." And it's like, well,
the giant bit's playing now, and you can see exactly what you talked about. It's like the number of guys who are just stood there, like they're not doing anything. They're just kind of like, some of them are not quite the right angle. You know, they kind of turn slightly to the left or the right, and the giant, instead of like sweeping guys away with his massive club, is picking them up one by one and like maybe chewing their head, or just there. Just as I turned it over back to the overlay, he picks one guy up and slams him into the floor. why isn't he? If he's going to pick a guy up, use him to hit other guys or something.
Yeah, or throw him like
yeah,
like a ball and smash like a few guys away. I mean, the giant does stamp at one point, ow, and knocks a few people out of like knocks them down, and they seem to get back up. It's like when the big spider goes in, it's like got a load of people standing around it. The spider looks a little bit better because it's sort of using its legs to impale people and going like that, and that's like okay, but it has always been a big killer for me, just the way the combat actually happens. Like, it looks impressive. Attila looks impressive. Rome looks impressive when you've got your armies laid out, ready to go in. When your armies go in, that anticipation, you're about to have a battle, you can zoom in. They give you all these crazy camera angles so you can zoom in and see it. And they just go, and it's like, oh. And then there's just like a little bit of a fight going on, and it's all weird. And then it's sort of, it's not like a proper melee. It's like, I mean, you can see they're doing things with Total War, Warhammer, where the orcs are jumping in. I mean, if an orc's charging you, he's crazy. He's gonna throw himself at you. That's what you should be seeing. That's what they should be doing. But if you look at the impact, the guys, they're like jumping in all crazy and then just going and just sort of stopping at the guys. It's not like knocking them over and like chopping the fucking face off them. That should be a bonus, shouldn't it? If
I just switched over to a cavalry charge. And it was exactly that. They charged in and they just stopped. But bizarrely, there's another cavalry charge happening just now with the horses, not the griffins. The horses like leap and the guys attack with the spears. So it's like they've kind of got the right idea for some of it, but they're not. They need to apply it to like everything. They need to. The setup's there, but it's like they've got the setup but not the payoff at the moment. When the armies are laid out and the charge happens, before it connects, it's like holy shit, this is going to be awesome, and then it hits and it's not awesome. It's just like it just stops. It's like if
massively anticlimactic. That's what it is. It just doesn't look very like. It just looks impressive when everything's walking around. It's like, oh my god, massive spider. Oh my god, shitloads of black orcs. Oh my god, what the fucking hell? Oh, my big dragon thing. You
want to be blown away. Like, you want to be whenever there's an impact between the two armies, you want to be sitting there going, holy shit. You don't want to be sitting there going, why they just stop there? Why?
Or when the Luminarch fires its beam and it's just like, and it hits a giant and he just goes, oh.
And that spell off the orc shaman guy, the golden shaman.
That is terrible.
The big ball of rock that just has fire. Yeah. That's completely like.
But what is that?
I don't understand.
Why isn't it like smashing into him? He's just like hovers above them and they go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just stuff like that. I think. I mean, obviously they're not going to have a huge amount of experience with doing that kind of thing in Total War games, but they need to work out a way to have spells, especially, have a bigger punch. Like, it doesn't really matter how much damage it does; it's how visually impressive it is. And if you've got a guy who's waving his staff around and he fires something at a group of units, you want to think to yourself, "Oh shit!" You don't want the units to get caught in it. I know you don't at the moment, but you're not looking at that and going, "Oh my god, that looked amazing." Instead, you're thinking, why has he just summoned a giant green ball of shit that's just hovering over a bunch of guys? Why is he doing that? Like, where's the impact? There's no impact there. When the what is it, the foot of Mork or whichever god it is?
They're both the same. They fucking Gork and Mork.
Yeah. When that stamps down, that's actually quite that's a neat spell, like a neat animation. I like that effect, but because there's no there's no damage to the terrain, it's like there's no impact. And so you have this big thud, and then you look where it landed, and nothing's happened. And it's like they're close, they're really close, but it's like they need to work on that.
And it smashes down on a steam tank, an Empire steam tank, and a Luminarch. If that was to happen, they would go and fucking explode. And this is what I want to see, like bits of like the armor plating flying into the other divisions and fucking wiping out guys. That's what would like that. Like, it feels like we're hating on Total War, but like an actual fucking battle, if something like that exploded and like, or some massive impact happened, there would be like ripples going out from that. And if like you've smashed in this big tank, bits of it would fly over the place. You would get shrapnel in the back of your head and you'd die. And it just seems like they're not there yet. They're very far away from getting that feeling of this massive actual battle taking place. What they do have is they do have a strategy game where they have saying they've perfected it isn't really, nothing can be perfect, but they've got a line battle game which does work and is enjoyable to play.
They've got something that's absolutely suitable for Warhammer. It's totally suitable for Warhammer. That's what Warhammer Fantasy Battles was. but they need to get they just need to get the almost like the details. Like they've got the core, they need to get the little decorations, the finery around the outside done, because you want that. You want the same satisfaction that you get from seeing your army lined up in huge ranks with your monstrous creatures and everything. You want that same satisfaction from the fight itself, not just looking at the armies before the fight starts.
I mean, it's got to be quite a big technical challenge, though. I mean, if you think of the number of units that are coming around, and when one does an animation, the other one has to do a corresponding animation to that, so it makes sense. And they'd have to have varieties of animation, because you can't just have guys doing the same thing all the time. This isn't 2001. There needs to be loads of animation. So the amount of work must be astronomical for it, and that's why it always looks a bit iffy when you see things happening. Now, I guess there's ways of kind of covering this with certain animations and stuff, but I am hyped off what I've seen in that video. It looks pretty good. And it's pre-alpha, so we can let them off with a lot of stuff. If it's still like that when it's launched, then they just deserve to be destroyed, because that's just not acceptable. That's just not good enough, really.
Yeah.
And hopefully it doesn't launch in a horrendous, buggy state.
I don't think they could get away with it. Honestly, I don't think you could get away with it. After Rome 2, I know they repaired some of the reputation with Attila, but as you say, Attila does not have the same impact as the Romans. It's not going to be... I doubt it was anywhere near as popular, because it lacks that punch. It lacks that interest that everyone knows about the Romans. Not everyone really knows anything about Attila. It's not something that's going to draw people in. Total Warhammer, absolutely will draw people in. Not just people who like Warhammer, but people who like Total War. And as you say, people who want that massive fantasy battle experience, because there's nothing really that does it. There's nothing on the same scale that does it. So they kind of have to get it right. And given how utterly controlling Games Workshop are with their IP, I mean, I know they seem to hand it out to any old wanker these days, but for something of this scale, I can imagine they would not be happy if the game released in a terrible state. They can't really risk it. Although, as you said in the video, why the hell they cancelled Warhammer Fantasy Battle before the game was out is still mental to me. It's just lunacy. It's like, you see this? Yeah, you can't do that on the tabletop anymore. Off you go. Why?
It is stupid. I was trying to find sales figures for... Well, I can't find... I mean, according to Steam Spy, okay, I can't see exact sale figures, but what I can see is active players. Now, so player totals, yeah? You got 358,000 for Attila.
Yeah.
For Rome Total War, you got 1.9 million. So that shows you the difference there.
Yeah.
It's sold a lot more, 5-6 times as much, and it would do, because it's Rome. It's like we said, and I expect Warhammer Fantasy to be over 2 million based off those figures. I expect it to do more than what Rome has done.
I wouldn't be surprised if it kind of sells the best of all of their games. And I'm not just saying that as kind of as a Warhammer 40k fan or an Age of Sigmar fan or whatever. It's just, it has that draw of everyone. It's going to appeal to everybody, to all the different fans of all the different franchises, and you've got that kind of gold mine of just generic fantasy, because that's what Warhammer is. Let's be honest, it's just generic fantasy. I know you've got things like steam tanks and stuff, but
Warcraft ripped it off. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this type of line battle game can either be historical or it can be fantasy. It can't be sci-fi, because that does not make sense. Yeah. That is stupid. If you I mean, maybe you could do a sci-fi one, but to me that really doesn't make sense, because look at modern combat. It's not massive battles anymore. It's just precision strikes all the time. Futuristic combat would be even more precision based. You might have a big robot or something, but
to do it like 40k, you could only get away with 2 or 3 races max. You could only do orcs. You could only do orcs, Tyranids, and Imperial Guard. Those are the 3 armies that you could get away with masses and masses of, because no other force in that universe works. Maybe Chaos Demons, but that's it. No, it's you just can't do it.
It doesn't work, because they're not line battles. They're ranged battles the majority of the time. It just would not work, because you need melee infantry smashing into each other. That's what you need. If you've got loads of melee guys coming in, that's why it works with fantasy, because obviously in fantasy settings, generic magical setting, let's say, wizard man setting, you're going to have a wizard, but then you're going to have a load of guys with swords and shields, and you might have a big dragon.
As the video shows, it's you've got massive hordes of orcs with sword and board charging into people, cutting the shit out of them. That's what you need to get that impact. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I hope it's good. I really
am
do
looking
hope
forward
it's
to it.
good.
Yeah.
But like you, I kind of got that little worry where it's like, what if they screw it up? I really hope they don't, but it's not like they haven't been known to do it in the past. So he'd been attacked by the spider again.
I don't know. I've got to worry that he might come out and play. I don't even know where he's gone.
Just remember, we never named the episode. It's the 11th. You said you had a name
Oh,
for
yeah.
the 11th.
But it was just the insurmountable 11th.
The insurmountable. I'll
11th is hard to rhyme with. I mean, it rhymes with like 7th, but then the 11th, 7th.
Well, I mean, we kind of we went a bit weird with it because we started out like the first one was not even named anything really. It was the Immense first, which is nothing, and the Glorious second. Then we had the Magnificent third, but then we went into the Fantastical fourth. Which you'd think that's where it started.
What have we called them so far then?
So there's the Immense first, Glorious second, Magnificent third, Fantastical fourth, the Munificent fifth. I can't remember why we called it that. The Sexual sixth. So it
naturally
we skipped one with the fifth, but yeah, the Sexual sixth. Then we had a slight break. The Slightly Underdescribed seventh, because we forgot to call that one anything. Yeah. The Highly Erotic eighth, spelled in a very particular way, obviously. Highly. The Narky ninth. The Tantalizing 10th. Yeah, so we've gone for the word has to have the same first letter as the number.
Yeah, so insurmountable does kind of work. Immense has been taken.
What, for 11th? We need an E though, don't we? We need the eminent? No. An eminent 11th? Nah, I don't like that. It might just be insurmountable.
The
environmentally friendly 11th.
Only terrible. It's not, because we're like we're not environmentally friendly at all because of all the server infrastructure required for this. It's just like destroying the atmosphere. I don't know. The 11th episode, baby.
We can't call it that. That's just disappointing. It's got to be. I think we'll just stick with the.
We're gonna have a problem here because like the 12th could be the tantalizing 12th, but that's gone.
The titular 12th.
Titular.
It'll be called something. I might just make something up on the spot as I do the title. It can be a surprise, except it won't because you'll have read it.
Have you got Windows 10 installed?
I still haven't had my download for it. It keeps saying that your computer is ready and we'll let you know when it's your turn.
You can force it if you really want it, but mine says I can have it, and I'm just like, I ain't even clicked on it yet. I'm still living in like Windows 8.1 world because I'm worried. I'm worried, bloke. Because I've seen things which
I'm going to wait until I've re-encoded TIMEframe again because I accidentally encoded an extra half an hour of blackness onto the end of it. I've not done that for ages. I just didn't think about it. I was like, yeah, that looks about right. And then we looked at the clip. I went, that is not an hour and a half's worth of video. What the hell's going on? Oh, shit. So I need to redo that. Once I've done that, uploaded it and uploaded this, I'm going to force Windows 10. I'm going to try it. I'm just going to gamble. I'm just going to go for it. Who dares wins? You know, you got to just try it out, haven't you? And then no doubt you'll see me complaining all over Twitter when it destroys my PC.
Yeah, I've got problems with it. Like, running an operating system upgrade is dodgy because it's not... It isn't like a fresh install, is it? It's not like you've installed Windows 8.1 and then just click the upgrade button. It's like you've got loads of shit installed, and it's going to be... It could be fine. Most people are saying it's fine. But I know what'll happen. I'll do it. Premiere Pro will stop working. OBS will stop working.
Yep.
TeamSpeak will break. Yep. My microphone... the thing I'm worried about is this. The Scarlett 2i2 audio interface drivers, they just will probably die. The microphone won't work. The sound card probably... It won't work, and I'm just going to cry in a hole.
That's why I'm waiting until I've got everything uploaded for the weekend before I do it.
I might do it on this computer just for the crack.
Do it on that, and if it works, do it on the one you're on now.
That's not fucking very good logic.
Just do it as a test. It'd be fine. If it works on that one, I'm sure it'll be fine.
I also changed my picture to a cabbage on Twitter.
This is true. I like the change. It needs to be a bit brighter though. I feel like it needs to not have a grey background. I feel like you need to replace the grey with the Union flag, because then he'll stand out more. Because I'm on TweetDeck, so it just looks like he's got a slightly discoloured background to me.
Yeah, I'm on TweetDeck as well. He just looks like a bit of a stain.
Should have just taken your own face and overlaid a cabbage and then set it to a screen.
Yeah, but it's too much work. I can't be arsed with that.
I just take people's fan art and use it instead.
Bastard.
Cheat. We're going to call it at that, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't say this at the start, which I never do. No, I usually do, but I forgot this time. My brain doesn't work, as you can tell. I'm broken today. If you want to support the podcast, you can do it by clicking the link up there and down there. Supporting the podcast obviously supports Hotfix as well, as it's the sister, they related, blood related, which is nice for them. Anything you do to help is really, really appreciated. We're very thankful for the people who do. If you do support the Pubcast and the Hotfix, then you get a shout out at the beginning of the next Hotfix, but not in the Pubcast. Because someone actually asked me about that on Steam the other day. They're like, "Why didn't you shout me out on Pubcast?" And I said, "Because we've never done shout outs on Pubcast." That's why.
No, we just do it on Hotfix because like Pubcast is just like the bastard offspring of the mother of Hotfix, and we just like
the ginger stepchild of. No offense to anyone. Anyway, we're going to go away now. Come back on Thursday for Hotfix. We'll see you then.
Goodbye.